Holiday. Every year on September 17th, we celebrate the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution is our nation's most important document. It lays out the basic rules for how our government works, and it protects our rights and freedoms as citizens. No wonder we Americans are so proud of our Constitution. But writing the Constitution was not easy. The writers of the Constitution worked hard and argued about many things. But on one point, the writers all agreed. They did not want an all-powerful king. They had had enough of that when they were British colonists. They all felt strongly that power should rest in the hands of the people. When and why did Americans decide they needed a constitution? What led up to the writing of this important document? King George III was the ruler of Great Britain during the American Revolution. American colonists in Boston in the 1700s. To answer these questions, we need to go back to the time before America declared its independence. The 13 American colonies belonged to Great Britain. But by 1775, people in the colonies were becoming more and more unhappy with rule by the British king. The colonists had no voice in their government, none at all. The Revolutionary War broke out between the American colonists and the British. The colonists signed a Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776. The next year, these newly united states drew up the Articles of Confederation, or rules, for their new government. During this time, General George Washington served as Commander-in-Chief of the United States Army. The Revolutionary War lasted 8 long years, from 1775 until 1783. But at last, the United States won its freedom. Left, George Washington. Above, a battle at sea during the Revolutionary War. By 1787, the new government of the United States of America was having a lot of problems operating under the Articles of Confederation. No one was in charge of running the government. Decisions were not being made. Money was needed to run the country. But the government had no way to collect taxes. So a convention was called to solve these problems. The Constitutional Convention took place at the State House in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which was later renamed Independence Hall. All the states except Rhode Island sent delegates to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. Some delegates wanted to try to fix the Articles of Confederation. Others wanted to write an entirely new constitution. But everyone wanted George Washington to preside over the convention. James Madison took notes during every meeting, for 16 weeks. There were many disagreements about how the government should work. The biggest disagreement was about how to balance power. Who should have most of the power? The states or the federal government? Another disagreement was about how many representatives each state should have in Congress. States with larger populations preferred the Virginia Plan, which would give more representatives to states with bigger populations. States with smaller populations preferred the New Jersey Plan, which would give all states the same number of representatives. Roger Sherman, a delegate from Connecticut, suggested a compromise. Congress should be divided into 2 parts. In the Senate, states would have equal representation, but in the House of Representatives, representation would be based on population. This was called the Connecticut Compromise. A group of delegates presents ideas before George Washington at the Constitutional Convention. There were many other important debates. For example, how should power be divided among the 3 branches of government? It was decided to create a system of checks and balances, like a 3-legged stool. There were many other important debates. For example, how should power be divided among the 3 branches of government? It was decided to create a system of checks and balances, like a three-legged stool. The legislative branch, Congress, would make the laws. The judicial branch, the courts, would interpret the laws. The executive branch, the president, would enforce the laws. Congress meets in the U.S. Capitol building, the Supreme Court building. In this way, no single branch would have too much power. Each branch would be kept in check by the other two branches, and all three legs of the stool would be balanced. The most important part missing from the new Constitution was the protection of people's specific individual rights, a Bill of Rights. This was a great concern for some delegates, but it would have to be dealt with later. After 4 months of difficult work, the new Constitution was finished. It was ready for signing by the convention delegates on September 17, 1787. Alexander Hamilton, a delegate from New York, was a persuasive supporter of the new Constitution. Even though he thought it was far from perfect, he encouraged all the delegates to sign it. Alexander Hamilton encouraged delegates to sign the new Constitution. But 3 delegates refused to sign. 2 of them thought a Bill of Rights should have been included. One thought the executive branch should be a 3-man council instead of a 1-man president. The final result was that the Constitution was signed by 39 of the original 55 delegates. Some delegates had already gone home. George Washington signed first. All those who signed either the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution are now called the Founding Fathers of our country. Probably none of the delegates was completely happy with this new Constitution. It was the result of many compromises, but it spelled out ways it could be amended or changed in the future. From time to time during the convention, Benjamin Franklin had thought about the half-sun carved into the top of George Washington's chair. Was it a rising sun or a setting sun? Would this new nation succeed, or would it soon come to an end? With the signing of the Constitution, Franklin decided the half-sun was definitely a rising sun. The time had come for each of the states to ratify, or vote to approve, the Constitution. This document had been written in secrecy, but now it was made public. State conventions were held where people could vote yes or no. Benjamin Franklin. George Washington's rising sun armchair. There was serious criticism of the Constitution. Some people said the delegates had gone too far. They should only have improved on the old Articles of Confederation, not written an entirely new Constitution. Some complained that there was no Bill of Rights. Another group complained that the new Constitution gave too much power to the federal government and took away power from the states. Alexander Hamilton again put his persuasive powers to use. He supported having a strong federal government, so he was called a Federalist. He wrote most of the 85 important essays now known as the Federalist Papers. James Madison and John Jay wrote the others. These essays helped win support for the Constitution in several key states. Alexander Hamilton. The Constitution went into effect as soon as 9 of the 13 states, a 2/3 majority, had ratified it. On June 21, 1788, huge celebrations were held 2 weeks later, on the 4th of July, with parades and speeches and bonfires. New York celebrates the adoption of the Constitution with a parade honoring Alexander Hamilton. On April 30, 1789, George Washington took the oath of office as the first president under the new Constitution. In the election, all the electors had voted for Washington. Also in 1789, the first meeting of Congress was held. James Madison introduced 12 amendments, or additions, he hoped to make to the Constitution. The 10 amendments that were finally adopted are known as the Bill of Rights. Some of the individual rights protected. Another 17 amendments have been added over the years, allowing the Constitution to continue to grow and change with the times. Amendments 11 through 27 guarantee important freedoms such as abolishing slavery, giving all races the right to vote, and giving women the right to vote. For over 200 years, the Constitution has served the people of the United States well. Even as we have grown from 13 states to 50, many people in the world do not enjoy the same rights and freedoms that our Constitution gives us. It is important to understand and appreciate these freedoms, and to appreciate all the men and women who have protected these freedoms over the years. In 2004, a federal law was passed naming September 17th Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. The Constitution Day part of the holiday is celebrated in schools by teaching students about the Constitution. The Citizenship Day part of the holiday honors all those who have become, or are about to become, American citizens. A boy dresses up for Constitution Day at school. Children recite the Pledge of Allegiance at a Constitution Day event. How does someone become an American citizen? There are 3 ways. Everyone born in the U.S. is a citizen. Those born outside the U.S. are citizens if at least one parent is a citizen. Others may become citizens by following the steps to naturalized citizenship. The steps include having a background check and passing tests in English and in U.S. history and government. A young girl at an oath-taking ceremony. Children become citizens when a parent becomes a naturalized citizen. Naturalization ceremonies for new citizens are held throughout the year, but a great many are held on or near September 17th. During these ceremonies, people who have qualified for citizenship take an oath of allegiance to the United States and its Constitution. From that moment on, they enjoy all the rights and responsibilities of being citizens. People become U.S. citizens at a naturalization ceremony. There's another fine way to celebrate Constitution Day and Citizenship Day if you are near Washington, D.C. You can see the original Constitution, Bill of Rights, and Declaration of Independence at the National Archives. And if you are near Philadelphia, you can visit the National Constitution Center. Established by Congress, this center brings the story of our Constitution to life. You can also visit their website to learn more about the Constitution. Visitors at the National Archives look at the original Constitution. The greatest strength of our United States Constitution is that it puts power in the hands of the people. Also, it balances power between the states and the federal government. It separates the powers of the legislative, judicial, and executive branches. It sets up a system of checks and balances, so that no single branch has too much power, and it protects the individual freedoms of our citizens. This is all worth celebrating every year on September 17th. A boy holds an American flag at his family's naturalization ceremony.